Welcome to the C Analysis podcast. I'm your host, Chaz Nuttycombe, the director of C Analysis. Today, we're joined by Austin Chambers, who is the former head of the RSLC, that's the Republican State Leadership Committee. They saw a lot of success last year, flipping state legislative seats and chambers up in New Hampshire. He's now at Main Thing Strategies. Austin, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, it's good to be on with you, Chaz. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's really great to talk to you. I mean, you had an operation that had a lot of success last year. In 2020, Republicans had their biggest net gain in state legislative seats across the country since 2014, when there was a midterm election powered by the notorious 6-year itch against a Democratic president. It was certainly an anomaly in recent election trends. Trump lost the election, yet he had really powerful down ballot coattails, strengthening polarization. Why do you think that is?
Well, our team did an incredible job, and what they accomplished in 2020, I think, is probably one of the biggest stories for Republicans over the last few decades. Leading into the redistricting cycle, there was a lot of talk about what Republicans did in 2010 with the great wins that we had in 2010 that prepared us for redistricting the following year, and how Republicans were going to have that happen to them in reverse, meaning the Democrats were going to do to Republicans what Republicans did to the Democrats then this time around. But what happened was the exact opposite. And I think what we accomplished in 2020 was actually more impressive than even what our team accomplished back in 2010, because this time around, Democrats spent almost $500 million across the country in state legislative races between campaigns and outside groups that were involved, and had absolutely no success to show for it. We defended every one of our legislative majorities to hold at 59, and then picked up 2 additional up in New Hampshire to end the day at 61 out of 99 legislative chambers in the Republican column, and left Democrats only controlling 17% of the redistricting of congressional seats across the country. So it was an epic failure for Democrats. The difference was this time around, they actually spent money and put a lot of effort into it, and had complete and utter failure, not just like in 2010 where they were just caught sleeping and Republicans beat them. So our team did an incredible job, and it's positioned Republicans in a great place to take back the House in 2022. I think we're going to continue to see great success at the state level as well, moving forward, given the redistricting domination that Republicans have.
Well, you said that Democrats didn't really have any success in 2020. And let me preface this by saying, yeah, I would agree that they had a really bad year last year, but they did have some success. For example, in the New York State Senate, they created a supermajority, which was, and that was under a Republican gerrymander, which, of course, Governor Cuomo signed off on. And then, if I recall correctly, they also created supermajorities in Connecticut. They also were able to keep Governor Evers' veto in Wisconsin by preventing a supermajority from being created in the state Senate. Although they did underperform our projections, they did have net gains in Georgia, for example, in the Georgia House. There were some small highlights. I wouldn't say it was 100%. They didn't have any success anywhere. But, at the end of the day, Republicans still had a very good year. Well, let's talk about recruitment failures, though, on the Republican side of things. There were a handful of Democrats representing Trump 2020 territory, where Republicans failed to file a candidate. Places like Oklahoma, Missouri, Tennessee, and more states. Why do you think that is?
Look, what we focused on the states where we knew redistricting was going to be critical. And in those states across the country, we flipped 48 seats that were held by a Democrat that Donald Trump had carried in 2016. On On the Democrat side, they were only able to flip 24 seats that were held by a Republican but carried by Hillary Clinton in 2016. So in those same target states that we focused on. So we had a game plan. We knew the states that we needed to focus on. We knew we weren't going to have the resources that the Democrats had. We weren't going to be able to go compete everywhere. The Democrats' plan was to quote flip everything, and they were going to run people everywhere and win everywhere. We took a much more targeted strategic approach to it. We knew the states that mattered. We knew the races that mattered, and we knew where we had to win. That's what our team did, working with many other caucuses, campaigns, and outside groups across the country. As we kept our head down, we focused on what mattered, and we won, and have great results to show for it.
Well, I want to talk a little bit more about this recruitment failure, because, yeah, you are right that those states I just mentioned, Oklahoma, Missouri, Tennessee, those are states that the Republicans already control in redistricting. And even in recruitment failures for places like, Massachusetts, or Democrats control redistricting.
I don't accept the premise that it was a recruitment failure. I'd say the Democrats had recruitment failure because they recruited horrible candidates who weren't capable of winning in states that Joe Biden won. So if you want to talk about recruitment failure, they're the ones who failed. They said they were.
I don't
Texas
disagree with
and
that.
Arizona and Minnesota and Georgia and North Carolina and Pennsylvania and Florida, all of these chambers, they said they were going to flip, and they've got nothing to show for it. So they should have recruited better candidates. We had great candidates in the places that we needed to have good candidates. We won. And now what we've got to focus on moving forward, to your point, is moving beyond. Where do we need to recruit candidates at now? Where do we need to continue to grow our majorities? Where do we need to solidify our majorities? Or where do we need to go on offense in places like Nevada or Colorado or Maine? Those are all things that the organization and the party is going to look at as we move forward. But I'd say the people who had the most recruitment failure in 2020 were the Democrats.
When I say recruitment failure, I mean leaving the seats uncontested, especially in districts. Again, I'm referring to the ones that these were districts that Trump carried last year. And given the lack of ticket splitting in Democrats' favor, I'm saying that these are seats that probably could have flipped in the Republicans' direction. But some of these cases are because of local truces in the parties, with both sides trading seats to leave uncontested. I know a truce that was broken last year was actually in Mandy Powers Norrell, I believe that's her last name, her district, because, and this is in South Carolina State House, because Democrats, if I recall correctly, they got a candidate in a nearby seat that wasn't even competitive in Lancaster. And it was a poor choice given that they were never going to win that seat. And Powers Norrell would be in trouble against a Republican because her district is very Republican. She hadn't been contested since 2012. And she lost. I think she lost by double digits. So did the RSLC ever get involved in breaking any of these type of truces in the local parties where you have people saying, I won't get a candidate against this person who's vulnerable here as long as you do the same for me here?
No, I don't know anything about local truces like that. What we tried to do every single day is let the data guide our decisions. And in our targeted states, we do our own data and our own modeling, take a look at what needed to be done. We would compare that to what the leadership in the states had, and then put together a game plan based on our data and then their knowledge of what was happening on the ground, their knowledge of the candidates, their knowledge of the circumstances. We'd put together a good game plan to attack it and win. In South Carolina, you'll recall there was great success on the state Senate side with Republicans netting and picking up seats that folks didn't expect we would pick up. So I don't know the specifics of the truce that you're referring to on the House side. But I'll say, we don't make decisions like that. We make decisions based on if the data says we can win, we're going to go in and try and win it.
Well, so while the Republicans definitely had the upper hand in redistricting this decade, Democrats definitely fumbled football in their own 5-yard line, I would say, in terms of how bad it was. The Republicans still lost a lot of ground in the fight over drawing maps in their favor, also known as gerrymandering. New redistricting commissions have propped up. Majorities have been lost. And I'm comparing to 2010 here. and restrictions on how effective they can gerrymander have been put on them. For example, Ohio. Are you worried that the lack of power of the pen for the GOP is going to cost them seats in this next decade with new seats?
No, I'm confident in the position that we're in. I think it's the strongest position that we could be in, given the map, given the circumstances, given the environment. I think it's actually, I know it's better than most people expected, and I feel good about where we are. I think it puts us in a great position for 2022 and beyond at the federal level and at the state level, and the Democrats know that.
Mm-hmm. So it really seems like just since the beginning of time that the GOP has lost ground in the suburbs, which are only becoming more and more diverse every year and bluer as a result. Though the gains they're making in the rural areas are arguably negating a lot of those gains for the Democrats in the legislatures. When it comes to ticket splitting, though, it largely benefits Republicans currently. There are far more districts in the suburbs that voted for Biden and a state legislative Republican than districts in the rural areas that have voted for Trump and a state legislative Democrat. How are these suburban Republicans able to get voters who support top of the ticket Democrats to vote for them at the same time?
Well, that was our biggest focus over the last cycle in 2020 was how do we make sure that our candidates have the resources and the training necessary to push the right message in these suburban districts. And it wasn't just that we had good candidates, in my opinion, who were running good campaigns and talking about messages that people cared about, like COVID relief and what they were doing to manage that crisis, what they were doing around education and jobs and the economy. We also got a lot of help from the Democrats, I think, because what the Democrats did was they ran this sort of national campaign where they were making everything about Washington and making everything about Donald Trump. And I don't care who you are, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, you don't want your state capital to look anything like Washington, D.C. And suburban voters are able to separate those two things out and actually look at who's going to make their neighborhood safer, who's going to make their schools better, and who's going to, bring good economic development to their community. That's what our candidates focused on. When you look at Democrat outside groups, for example, they were running the exact same ads on television in multiple districts across multiple states, same script, same creative, everything. The only thing they would do was change out the candidate's picture during the ad. Everything else was the same. Our view was that one size fits all approach isn't going to work anywhere. And we needed to make sure we were running localized campaigns that were tailored to that district or tailored to that state with that specific candidate. And we did that, and we were successful because of it. So we had great candidates pushing great message, but also got some help from the Democrats' incompetence as well.
So you were saying that Democrats trying to make these state legislative races a referendum on Trump didn't work for them in 2020. And I know Dave Wasserman's kind of theory, which I would definitely support, is that comparing to the 2018 midterm when they had the same messaging, and that did help them get a lot of state legislative gains, by the way. We both know that. Yep. But, what happened in 2020 is that now these suburban voters are now able to vote against Trump while sort of going back to brunch and going back to voting Republican in these down ballot things. So I think that's one of the reasons why
it was a check and balance in many cases.
Yeah.
And that was a message we were able to successfully deliver. And these voters want that check and balance. And I think that's another reason Republicans are going to be successful in 2022 is they're going to want another check and balance on Washington. That's going to help us in these congressional races and in the Senate races, that check and balance message that we weren't effectively able to break through on in Georgia, given the circumstances that were surrounding the runoff, I think will be effective in the congressional midterms in 2022.
It's funny. I was actually kind of talking about something similar to this today with here in Virginia. The Democrats may have an all Northern Virginia ticket. And so what I'm kind of thinking, if that happens, unless the Republicans screw around and nominate Amanda Chase next Saturday, which I don't think is likely, but definitely possible. What they can do is run these type of ads that rail against Northern Virginia in the other media markets, and I think that really helps them if they really want to get this ticket splitting for them in the LG and AG race, as well as the House delegates, because they can say the Democrats are only tailoring to Northern Virginia. Their whole ticket is Northern Virginia. So if you want to make sure that there is a check and balance on Northern Virginia, you need to support our candidates in the legislature and in the LG and AG race. Do you think that type of messaging is something that the Republicans would be interested in trying to go in their pursuit of flipping the House, just kind of really
Yeah.
focusing on that regional divide? Because I mean, I'll tell you, there are a lot of Democrats who just do not like Northern Virginia.
Yeah.
So I think that's something. Do you think that type of messaging is something they'll do?
I do. And look, I'm familiar with what's happening in Virginia. I think that Republicans are uniquely positioned to make some gains this year on the statewide level and on the legislative level if we don't nominate Amanda Chase. If we have one of the three good Republican candidates that are running, I think Republicans can do well statewide. And they're going to be able to do so by, one, the message that you just talked about, but also talking about what we were talking about just a second ago, total one-party control, running against that total one-party control and putting a check and balance on that. So they will have both of them, the regional check and balance that you're talking about, but also Virginians have seen the effects of total Democratic control over the last 2 years. And Virginia has always been a very mainstream, moderate, business-friendly state. And I think the Democrats have done too much too fast in the last 2 years. And I think that's going to come back to haunt them, even in the suburbs up in Loudoun and Fairfax and Prince William. I think those folks that, have been sitting there with closed schools and COVID lockdowns and a lot of this woke craziness coming out of Richmond in the meantime are going to say, hey, I didn't like Donald Trump, but this isn't what I signed up for either. I like Virginia. This is home. This isn't how it used to be. We got to get back to a little bit more normalcy. Terry McAuliffe is going to try and make that argument of moderate normalcy, but we're going to see how much his party will let him do that.
Yeah, well, one thing I would say with the school stuff, I think that messaging works now, but I think given 30% of the country has 2 doses, majority of the country has 1 dose. I don't really see. And look, I'm a transfer student in Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech has announced that it's going to be a in-person school year, and I'm very excited about that. So I don't really think that messaging, they can't really run ads saying, oh, look, before they had COVID lockdowns on schools, that's going to be a thing of the past. So
it's
I
not
really
going to be the
think
leading issue, no doubt. It will be an
right.
issue that resonates with some moderate swing women that we need to win back over in Loudoun and Fairfax who've had to deal with it in their families for the last year. It will certainly still be in their mind. It's not going to be the driving issue of the campaign, but it's going to have to be something that Republicans use in a targeted way to the right audiences.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing was Fairfax, Fairfax is not really important when it comes to control of the House. I mean, the only potentially vulnerable candidate
I'm
up there,
on the statewide side.
Statewide, yeah, sure. So yeah, well, let's talk a little bit more about the state legislative elections this year. I think we both know that the Republicans have almost no chance of flipping either chamber in New Jersey. The real battle in there is the upper chamber, where the Republicans are trying to prevent the creation of a Democratic supermajority due to Republican retirements. In Virginia, the Republicans have nearly a 50-50 shot at breaking the Democratic majority. Largely thanks to the old lines, 75 of which were drawn by the Republicans in 2011, which are being used. And it's obviously got the old population. What's your view a little bit more on these contests, i.e., what do you think the net change will be if you had to guess right now in the Virginia House and especially the New Jersey State Senate?
Yeah, look, New Jersey, I think what I'll tell you is we've got a great team put together at RSLC that Edith Jorge leads the political organization. She's from Jersey. She knows Jersey like the back of her hand. She's worked up there for years. And it's something that she's focused on every single day. So if anyone is going to be able to do it and keep them from getting that super majority, it's going to be Edith and her team running the political operation now at RSLC. On the Virginia side, what I'll say is I think right now Republicans can pick up a couple seats. I think if we have a really strong Republican nominee at the top of the ticket for governor and a good slate for lieutenant governor and attorney general, and the environment continues to move in Republicans' favor as Biden continues to propose these new policies and try and get them passed in an off year through Congress with Democrat control of both chambers, I think Republicans could flip the majority back. But I wouldn't say that's the likely scenario right now. I think the likely scenario is that they pick up 3 or 4 seats and they come close to taking the majority, but don't yet take the majority. That'd be today. That's what I'd put money on. But there's a lot that's going to change between now and November. And I think that they've done a good job thus far of recruiting some good candidates, some that ran last time around who were good but got caught in a bad environment, and others who are just good new people that they've gone out and recruited. If we've got a good, well-organized operation, then we may be able to win. But if there's anything I've learned about Virginia, it's that Republicans can find a way to screw anything up. And we'll see what happens with the convention on May the 8th. If they nominate Amanda Chase, you're right, Republicans are dead on arrival. But if we get, Pete Snyder or get great candidate Glenn Youngkin or Kirk Cox, any of those 3, I think we're going to be in a position where we can surprise some folks this time around and get some good momentum leading into 2022 and have a repeat of 09 and 10 with the exception of Jersey.
Yeah, and I would actually kind of agree that I think if I had a gun in my head, pick a net gain, I think for 3 or 4 would be appropriate right now. And so the Democrats would have like a 1-seat majority or 2-seat majority. Yeah, I think that would be accurate.
It's going to be tough to hold. So,
well, the thing is that the Democrats really flunked on recruitment there. But the Republicans have a pretty good candidate. But that is a tough seat. It's a double-digit Biden seat, and now there's no incumbency advantage. I think that seat is going to get more competitive. But who do you think if you had to pick, who do you think is the strongest candidate that Republicans can nominate for LG and AG next Saturday? Sorry, not AG. LG and Gov.
Well, for Attorney General, I hope it's my friend Jason Miyares. He's a great guy.
It's going to be him.
And
it's going to be him.
Really good candidate. Well, your mouth to God's ears. I hope you're right. For Lieutenant Governor and Governor, look, on Governor, if it's Glenn Youngkin, Pete Snyder, or Kirk Cox, we're going to be in good shape.
Well, who do you think is the strongest, though, is what I'm asking, if you had to pick?
I don't know. I think Glenn Youngkin is the strongest from a financial standpoint, and I know the Democrats are very worried about him. Pete Snyder, though, I mean, DGA is already attacking him, and he's got a lot of crossover appeal. So I think either one of those two, certainly from a fundraising and appeal standpoint, but Kirk Cox is running a district that's the most Democrat district in the state and has a history of being able to win tough elections, has done a good job governing in an appropriate sort of quote Virginia way. So any one of the 3, I think, would be strong. I'm not a Virginian. I don't have to choose in that contest, and all 3 of them are friends. I'll leave it at that. Lieutenant Governor, I think probably Tim Hugo is the strongest. We need a good Northern Virginia candidate. If Glenn is nominated for governor, he, of course, is a great Northern Virginia candidate. Pete used to be in Northern Virginia, now is in Charlottesville. But it would be good to have Tim Hugo there as a good Northern Virginian for Lieutenant Governor.
Yeah, I think Davis would still be about the same. The only issue is that his seat, if it comes open, it's a little bit harder for the Republicans to hold. And especially, we
need him to run for re-election in that House seat if Republicans want to hold any shot at keeping the House.
Yeah, and I think what Hugo can give is regional diversity as well. And I was talking about that on Twitter today. because Mieres is going to be the AG nominee. You can bet the farm on it. And so Davis is also from Virginia Beach, and I think having a regionally diverse ticket is really good here in Virginia. Well, let's talk a
How
little
many
bit.
people do you think are going to vote in the convention?
Oh, I don't know. I would say, I mean, they had over 50K registered delegates. I mean, I guess it just depends on the competency of these campaigns and how they're able to get their registered delegates out. I think it's a really unique situation with what we have, what the Republicans have here in Virginia for having these drive-through type of conventions with ranked choice voting. I don't think they've really done something like this before, and if so, it's been a long time. So there's no real precedent for it to kind of throw an estimate out there. So it's really going to depend on how competent these campaigns are at getting their folks out. Well, let's shift over to the 2022 midterm. What's a Democratic held chamber that you think Republicans have the best shot at flipping? Personally, I think it's the Minnesota House of Representatives.
Yeah, I'd say it's Minnesota House. Then I'd keep an eye on Nevada and Maine as the other two. But I'd say Minnesota House is certainly there. I mean, we had it recently. We were able to hold the Senate this last time around. Yeah, I'd say Minnesota House. You're probably right.
Yeah. And, it always seems like with y'all, the Alaska House is kind of the Charlie Brown in the football situation for you, like it's always a competitive
we
chamber.
had it until we don't.
Yeah. They form a caucus. They're like, you got the numerical majority, but then you got some turncoat Republicans who are like, I don't like Dunleavy.
Yeah, we should be at 62 because Alaska should be ours. But
yeah, it's an interesting state. I think it's the most politically interesting state, so it's very fitting.
No doubt. So now they've changed the way they do elections up there, so it's going to be interesting.
That's true. And look, I support ranked choice voting, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see how it shapes up out there, especially with the Senate race in 2022. So final question again on the 2022 midterm. We're quite a ways away from election day 2022, but right now, if you had to guess, how many state legislative chambers do you think Republicans are going to flip?
I think Republicans are going to end up at 62 or 63 out of 99.
Okay, so which states do you think are going to have their chambers flip from Democratic control to Republican control?
I think that Republicans are going to hold everything that we have now, hopefully pick up Alaska. There's a big asterisk there. And then I'd say you're right on the Minnesota House.
Okay. Yeah, I think they do have a shot. You're talking about Maine and Nevada. They have a really good shot there. I think we have those chambers as either likely Democratic or lean Democratic. I think they do have good shots there, but I would definitely say that the Democrats currently are favored to hold those chambers. We have the Alaska House and Minnesota House as toss-ups. I think redistricting is going to favor the Democrats, though, in Minnesota, given the population changes that are expected to go to the Twin Cities. Yep. But the main thing is just watching out for whether polarization is going to catch up in northern Minnesota near the lake, because there's a lot of Trump territory there, but it's Trump Democratic territory, Trump voters who voted for state legislative Democrats in 2020. And if Republicans can still get those low propensity voters out and try and get, crank up the knob on polarization, I think they can make gains there. And I think they can make a few gains around the Twin Cities suburbs. So it'll be interesting to watch there. And, again, with Alaska, it's you don't really find out who's in the majority on election night. You find out a while after.
Not at all. Look, the RSLC did a great job in 2020. They've got a great team over there now who's going to build on the success that we had, be even more successful than we were. So I have I have every belief that they're going to end up with more legislative chambers after the election in 2022 than we have right now.
I think that's a likely scenario. All right, Austin Chambers, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Chaz. Good to be with you.